News broke, I was surprised. Damian Lillard is heading back to Portland, signing a 3-year, $42 million deal as a free agent. Obviously, he had the buyout with the Milwaukee Bucks and was a free agent as he rehabs his Achilles injury. He signs with the Portland Trailblazers, like I said, 3 years, $42 million with a player option for 2027-2028. He also has a no-trade clause now, joining LeBron James as the only players in the NBA with a no-trade clause. I got to admit, I was surprised by hearing this news when Shams broke it. Lillard is now owed $150 million over the next 2 seasons in salary across the Bucks and the Blazers, and this almost guarantees this is his final deal in the league. I had a bunch of reactions to this, but my first initial reaction, and I can't be the only one that shares this, was, does Damian Lillard still care about winning? Now, obviously, when you have every contender in the league knocking at your door, even when you're rehabbing an Achilles to sign for them, and that's being reported throughout this time, including the Celtics and things of that nature, to me it was very surprising that he goes and signs with the Blazers, especially on a long-term deal. Now, as we know, the reports afterwards shared that the biggest factor in his decision was staying close to family or finishing off his career close to family in Portland, which is absolutely understandable. But from a winning perspective, from a legacy perspective, given what he's done in Portland already, and then obviously going to Milwaukee in the hopes of winning a championship, that not working out, he gets injured, they buy him out. For him not to sign with a contender, to me, was very, very surprising. And like I said, it raised the question for me, is Damian Lillard done with competing? Does he care about championships anymore? Does he care about winning? Because this move certainly doesn't seem like it. I want to be fair to him. I do want to be fair. Obviously, like I said, rehabbing, he wants to stay close to home. But to me, doesn't feel like a move that's going to improve his legacy. And he's certainly never winning a championship in Portland the way they're currently constructed. He might not even see another playoff game in his career. And that's pretty sad for people that love Lillard's game and love to see him play in important games and things of that nature. Free agent, right? All the contenders in the league want you to sign with them. This is the perfect time for you, with your skill set, with your experience, to put a contender over the top. It's your best chance in your career to win a ring. And then you sign with the Portland Trailblazers on a long-term deal, another big contract with guaranteed money and options and no trade clauses. And we can't, in my opinion, say that that's a guy that values winning on the highest degree. Now, some people say, hey, Damian, Chris Paul's done the same thing. Signs with the Spurs, signs with other teams that aren't contenders. But the difference is the stage that Chris Paul is at and the stage Damian Lillard is at, they're in two different worlds at the moment. Lillard is still a productive all-star caliber player. Chris Paul's 40 years old. He's on the back end of his career. He can ring chase, sure, but how much can he contribute to a team that might win a championship? Whereas Lillard can be the guy that puts you over the top. We've just seen it with Bradley Beal. Maybe Bradley Beal's a guy that takes the Clippers to the next level. Now, I'm not saying that that's a championship team, but I'm saying that's a piece that could potentially elevate them to making a finals potentially if the cards fall in the right way. Damian Lillard had the chance to sign with any contender he wanted. Even if he's recovering from an Achilles injury, the Boston Celtics are knocking at your door, who have just won an NBA championship in 2024, and you go back home to Portland mostly for comfort. So I don't think that's a guy that we can classify is a thoroughbred, purebred winner, or someone who valued a championship more than other things throughout his career all the time. I'm not saying this was always the case, but I'm saying right now, when he had the opportunity to join a contender, he didn't. And to me, like I said, it signaled him done with competing at the highest level. We may never see him again in a playoff game, which is insane to me, given how productive he was before he had an Achilles injury. I also want to say that there's certain guys in the league that have been criticized for taking too much money throughout their careers and hindering the front officers and the GMs from building championship contenders. They get rung through the media. They get rung through every talk show host All the fans are pointing it out every single day that they're taking too much money. But Damian Lillard has quietly signed the biggest contract every single time and never really allowed the Portland Trailblazers front office to ever go get a big name. And I'm not saying they would have, but when Damian Lillard has career earnings in excess of $500 million, everything considered, there's other questions that need to be asked there as well. When deals like this happen, we should also be questioning what the front office is trying to achieve here in Portland. I think that's been largely overshadowed because it's a nice story. It's an amazing story. Lillard coming home, finishing his career in Portland, eventually getting his jersey retired. They're going to build a statue of him probably. Is he the best guy in franchise history? All these different questions. It's a nice story, close to home, close to family. He's happy. That's the main thing, obviously. But what direction are the Blazers going in right now? And more importantly, do they still believe in Scoot Henderson? They signed Damian Lillard. They trade for Drew Holiday, two guys that are on the back end of their prime. Holiday looks super washed last year. But what direction are the Blazers going? Are you going young and rebuilding? Are you getting Drew Holiday in to play, even though he doesn't want to be there and he wants to be on a contender, to rebuild his value and then flip him for a second or a first round pick, which probably won't happen with the new CBA and the deal that he's on? It's just a bizarre situation in Portland that feels like a front office that they don't know what they're doing. Is it more beneficial to have Damian Lillard and Drew Holiday on your roster than a younger, talented guy like Anthony Simons, which you traded away to get Drew? I don't think anyone still understands that deal from that point of view. But the Blazers are there's a whole nother question here on the Blazers on what they are trying to achieve. In my opinion, the Blazers are a little bit delusional on how good they ended the season last year. Obviously, they had that 19-win streak, I believe it was, to end the year. They were knocking on the door, actually, at one point in time, at the end of the season, in the play-in, because they had played so well. But you have to understand that when you're building these rosters, you need to understand what direction you're going in. And signing Damian Lillard and having Drew Holiday on the roster is inevitably going to mean that Scoot Henderson's role is reduced. We can do a whole segment on Portland, but Hansen coming in as well, while you have Klingon there, it's a little bit of a crowded front court as well. And it's like, Portland, what are you doing? The direction of the franchise is a little bit bizarre. They feel to me like they're in a situation where they're going to see what happens. Who's the guys where we can see what happens with. They still got the long, inflated, bizarre contract of Jeremy Grant, which no doubt they've tried to trade, but they can't, so eventually they'll buy him out. Just a bizarre situation in Portland. I don't know what direction they're going. I don't know how this helps them in what they're trying to achieve, if they're trying to achieve anything. I do like the Yang draft. I think they got that bang on. But again, what does that mean for Klingon? Can they play together? I don't think Yang's good enough to stretch the floor to that extent now, so Klingon can operate inside. There's just a whole bunch of different questions with them. What does that mean for Robert Williams as well? How many front court guys do you want? It's just a bizarre situation in Portland, but that's another noteworthy point. The last thing I want to say with this is, in a world where Lillard could have taken a team over the top and potentially changed his legacy and potentially appeared in a final series and played really well, and been in the mix potentially for a finals MVP or something like that, in the best case scenario here, does this move ultimately change his legacy in the long run? I don't think it does anything for now. In fact, I think it improves his legacy because he's going back to Portland. It's a beautiful story. Like I said, he's going to be the most decorated player there. But will the game remember Lillard the way it should have because of his skill set, because of how talented he was? Or will he be another point guard who was ringless, who we forget about, or who the casual fan forgets about and doesn't talk highly enough of? Or is his legacy a little bit diluted when we look back? Is he going to be seen as a winner? I touched on those points. Can we label him a winner with what we've seen now, especially with this opportunity to join one of the best teams in the NBA on a discounted deal? What does this do for Damian Lillard's legacy? I want to hear from you guys. As always, feel free to get in contact with me on any social media platform. And if you like this type of discourse, I'm here every day, so hit that subscribe button and I'll see you in the next one.